The senator from Vermont.
Mr. President, I'm struck by the fact as I call people around my state of Vermont, which is like your state and every other state has suffered from COVID, although I'll compliment our Republican governor who has kept the numbers down lower than practically any other state in the country. But we're facing winter, and even today, the outgoing president does not seem to be willing to acknowledge the huge mistake he made in not accepting the fact that we had a COVID pandemic coming to this country. We lost too much time preparing for it. We're still not adequately prepared for it. We could take some hope in news of new vaccinations, but even that's going to take months before that can be fully implemented. The reason I mention this, Mr. President, is that the Senate, time and time and time again, is voting on judicial nominees that have been recommended predominantly by a special interest group or a couple of different special interest groups, and we have to vote on these special interest judges for lifetime appointments. But we can't do a single thing to help the average people who are suffering because of COVID. This is not should not be a Republican or Democratic issue. In my state, I hear from business people who have small B&Bs, may have a restaurant, they have a small business. They don't identify themselves as Republican or Democrat. They just say, we can't open. What are we going to do? I hear from parents who say, what's being done so our kids can go back to school? The school says they could probably do something, but they need the money to set various COVID protections. Small hospitals that are overwhelmed. We've seen this in states all over the country. Hospitals are being overwhelmed, and the people working there are being overwhelmed. And the United States Senate hasn't done a single thing. We had a bill before us from the House in June and July. We could have voted on it. The Republican leader says, no, we can't because there's some parts that we Republicans may not like. Well, that's why you vote. Bring it up, vote it down. Bring up amendments, vote for them, vote against them, but do it. Instead, we spend our time day after day after day voting on special interest judges, people that have been proposed by special interest groups who are picked because they feel they will vote with these special interests. What we should be doing, take a little time off from that and vote for the American people. In my state, we have Republicans and Democrats. We have a Republican governor who's doing an excellent job. He's just been reelected, and we have a wonderful Democratic woman who's been elected as the new lieutenant governor. They both want to work together to get people back to school, back to work, protect their health, and they keep saying, where's the help coming from Washington? Now, I think instead of spending all this time talking about fanciful thoughts of, I saw one of the Trump supporters on television saying that she was there to rally for Donald Trump to resist those millions of votes that came in at the last minute from China into these voting booths. She thoroughly believed it, and she seemed like a good, intelligent person. But let's talk about reality. The reality is that COVID did not go away in the spring, as the president said. The reality is that you have to wear masks. The reality is you have to take steps to keep from having COVID. The reality is that our schools are suffering, our families are suffering, our small businesses are suffering, our government agencies are suffering. America is suffering. You know, I think about a few years ago when we had Ebola plague, and the Obama administration put in place with strong bipartisan support a special unit at the White House to react to plagues or serious novel diseases coming here. As a result, America is protected, but we also did, as America does best, we found other countries to handle the question of Ebola. What did we do when this administration came in? Well, because President Obama had set up that infectious disease unit, they quickly disbanded it. And for months, as the reports were coming in, making it very clear we were facing a serious threat to the United States, they ignored it, refused to acknowledge it. Now, at least they acknowledge it somewhat, but unwilling to take the steps necessary to fight it. So I would suggest that the United States had to do its job. Hold off for a while these special interest judges and actually vote for the things that help people who don't have special interests. The vast majority of Republicans and Democrats, men and women, families throughout the United States of America. Do something to help them. Bring up the bills, bring up the COVID bills, bring up the appropriations bills. Certainly, Senator Shelby and I are prepared to bring them to the floor. And if people don't like a particular bill, then bring up an amendment. Vote it up or down. What are we afraid of? Why are we afraid to vote? Vote it up or down. Let the American people see what we're doing. Certainly, I do not know a single person, Republican or Democratic, in my state who will tell me, oh, I'd much rather have you vote on these special interest judges than to vote on things that might actually help us keep our business from closing, help us be able to afford for our kids to go to school, help us put food on our table. That's what we should be doing. Let's vote on real things. Let's vote on the COVID appropriations. Let's vote on the help. Let's bring up our appropriations bills. After all, in just a few weeks, all funding for the government stops. Bring it up and vote on it. Vote it up or down. If people don't want to fund the government, then vote no. If they want to fund the government, vote yes. If they don't like a particular part of the funding package, bring up an amendment and have the courage to put your name on it, and then vote up or down. I'll speak further on this as we go on. I see one of my colleagues on the floor. I think he wants to speak, so I will yield the floor, Mr. President.